Hey, third grade, it's Mr. Roney with a lesson on using letters to represent unknown numbers in math and more practice with word problems using the read, draw, and write strategy. These are both concepts that we've already learned and we're just going to practice today. So let's get to it. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at skip counting by fours. Now, 4 is one of those numbers that it gets a little bit trickier to skip count than maybe skip counting by 2s or 5s. But they're still equally important to learn because they're really going to help us multiply and help us do math a little bit faster. So it doesn't take us so long to do one problem. So the quicker we can skip count by 4s, the quicker we can multiply by 4s as well. So this chart can be a little confusing. So what I want you to do is hyper-focus on this middle row that I'm going to underline as well. And this middle row is just showing the pattern when we skip count by 4s. Okay, so let's count together, and I'll point to the number, and we will say it together. So it's going to go 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, and 40. And if you really want to, we could go backwards. You think we can do it? Let's try it. 40, 36, 20. Whoa. I thought I could go backwards. Apparently I can't. Let's try this again. 40, 36, 32, 28, 24, 20, 16, 12, 8, and 4. And then we can go really fast this next time. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, 40, 40, 36, 32, 28, 24, 20, 16, 12, 8, and 4. If you could catch up, congratulations, because I could barely keep up with that myself. Now, the only other thing I want you to notice here is this row above, okay? And this row is interesting because it pairs each skip count by 4 with just another way to represent that number, okay? So 4 is the same thing as 1, 4. It's just written differently. 1, 4 equals 4. 2 4s, 4 plus 4 equals, you got it, 8. 3 4s equals 12. 4 4s equals 16. So you can also skip count by 4s by saying 1 4, 2 4s, 3 4s, 4 4s, 5 4s, 6 4s, 7 4s, 8 4s, 9 4s, and 10 4s. And it's the exact same thing as saying 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, 40. So my challenge for you today is see if you can memorize how to count by 4s all the way up to 40. And come back tomorrow and it'll be a lot easier if you can do that. So practice today and see how you do. Let's move on to our next part, talking about unknown numbers. Okay, so in the last few lessons, we've been talking about how a letter in math basically is the same thing as writing a question mark. It's something that we don't know that we're trying to figure out, okay? And that's all you should think about when you see a letter in math. You should think, okay, a letter means an unknown number, like a question mark, okay? So whenever you see a letter in math, just think question mark, something we don't know, okay? Now we're just going to take that concept and just look at it a little bit differently today. So this is a tape diagram where the top part of the diagram equals the same thing as all of the parts below it. So in this tape diagram, we have x at the top, and then 4, 4, 4, and 4 below. So all of these 4s will add up together to be the same thing as this x. So we have to find out what x equals in there. Now luckily, you guys have been practicing how to count by 4s. So let's see how many we get when we add these 4s together. So we're going to skip count by 4s, starting at 4 times. So we can skip count by going 1 4, 2 4s, 3 4s, 4 4s, or we can go 4, 8, 12, and 16. So if x equals the same thing as 4 4s, we know that x equals 16. And in this case, x just represented something we wanted to find out that we didn't know, and now we know that x equals 16. Let's try this again with y. Okay, y is just another letter sometimes that's used in math to represent the same thing, an unknown number. Okay, so don't get too caught up in what letter we're talking about. Just know that a letter equals something we don't know. So let's try to figure out what y is in this tape diagram. So it's saying y is the same thing as 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. And you guys know how to skip count by 2's pretty well. So we can skip count one way by saying 1 2, 2 2's, 3 2's, and 4 2's. Or, even simpler, we can go 2, 4, 6, and 8. So if y equals all 4 of these 2's, we know y equals 8. Okay? So the math is actually pretty simple. It's just trying to put in our heads that these letters actually equal unknown numbers. Now let's go to our sample problem for today. So here's our sample word problem today, where we're going to put that unknown number idea to the test, especially with our read, draw, and write strategy, which we're always going to use when we do word problems. So let's read the problem together. Jaden's bottle contains 750 milliliters of water. I'm always going to circle numbers because usually they're pretty important in word problems. He drinks 520 milliliters at practice, and then another 190 milliliters on his way home. How many milliliters of water are left in Jaden's bottle when he gets home? So the first thing when we look at word problems is, after we read it, we figure out, what is the word problem actually asking us to solve for? And a great way to do that is just take a look at this question mark and underline the question. So the question we're really trying to find out is, how many milliliters of water are left in Jaden's bottle when he gets home? Okay, so we've read the problem, we understand the question, and now we're just going to draw some pictures to go with the problem. So for my picture, and there are many different ways to do this, but for my picture, I'm kind of a literal person, so I'm actually going to draw some water bottles for my picture. So I'm going to draw one, which represents the water bottle when he goes to practice. It's not a great water bottle, but you see what I'm trying to do. This is the water bottle after practice, after he drinks 520 milliliters. And then finally, this is the water bottle when he gets home. I'm going to move my head so it's not in the way. That's the water bottle when he gets home. And now you should probably try to draw your water bottles all the same size. I don't know what I'm doing here, but it's kind of messy. So when you're drawing this, let's try to draw it a little bit neater than I'm doing it. So 3 water bottles to represent the 3 different situations. And I'm going to label this one before. This one is after practice. And then this one's going to be at home. And what we really want to know is how many milliliters of water are left in the bottle when Jaden gets home. And so that mystery number that we want to find out, we're going to label with a W. Okay? Because remember, we can use a letter to represent an unknown number that we're trying to find out. So then we look, before practice, how much did Jaden have in his water bottle? And we have that number. Jaden's bottle contains 750 milliliters of water. Okay? So this is 750. Then it said he drinks 520 milliliters at practice, and then another 190 milliliters on his way home. So we don't want to worry about home too quickly. Let's see after practice, after he drinks 520 milliliters, how much is left. So it's still going to be a little bit higher than when he gets home, but it's going to be much lower than when he started. And so this after practice number is going to be what he started with, 750, minus, how much he drank, which is 520. So 750 minus 520 milliliters is going to be how much this picture represents. And then finally, this number minus another 190. Okay? So basically, he starts with 750. We take away 520. And then we take away another 190. And that's going to be our answer, W. So let's get our subtraction skills out and let's figure this out. I'm going to move this over so you guys can see me with a little bit more room. And I'm going to make sure I put a check mark next to draw because I already drew my picture. Help me visualize the problem. So here we go. So 750 minus 520. We always start in the ones place when we subtract. So it's going to be 0 minus 0 equals 0. 5 minus 2 equals 3. And then 7 minus 5 equals 2. So he has 230 after practice. So he goes from 750 to 230 in practice. But then he drinks 190 milliliters more. So we got to subtract even more off of this number. So now we're going to take that 230 and we're going to subtract 190 from it. And that's going to be our final answer. So 0 minus 0, we're going to start in the ones place again. Then we have 3 minus 9. Now we know we can't take away 9 from 3, so we're going to borrow from next door. We're going to turn that 2 into a 1, and we're going to turn that 3 into a 13. 13 minus 9 is 4, and finally 1 minus 1 is 0. We can ignore that 0 because it's in the hundreds place. So 40 milliliters. So now we've read, we've drawn, we've solved our problem, and now we're just going to write it. And I'm going to type it out. And I'll zoom out a little bit here and then zoom back in. Sorry, first time using the whiteboard, guys. We're working on it. And we'll zoom in. Jaden has 40, make sure we put the unit on there, 40 milliliters, which is a way we measure capacity of liquid, of water left. And that's actually an answer on one of your Google form questions. So I hope that this made sense and that using that W as a placeholder for the problem we're trying to solve makes sense to you. So we can just think of those letters as question marks. And I hope that made sense with practicing our read, draw, and write strategy. We're going to keep using it and keep using it and keep using it. So if it's not making sense yet, keep at it and you'll do great. All right, so we're going to cut it off there for today. Go try that Google form. This is what that looks like. It's going to say read, write, and draw with letters unknown. And you guys are going to give your best shot. Actually, no, this is not the right one. Hold on. There we go. This is what you guys are going to work on today. So it's going to say using letters to represent the unknown. And you got 5 questions. Some of them are kind of practicing with that unknown number concept, and then the other 2 are practice word problems, and we just actually solved one of them. So go there right now, see how you do on the Google form, and keep the practice up. All these strategies are really going to help you guys. You guys are doing awesome so far. Keep up the good work.